Peace and blessings, everyone. We're back. We've been out of loop for a second, and we're back to with our lives, uh, with some very engaging discussions and exchanges around topics of the hour dealing with the Congo. And today we have a very special one that we're going to delve into Congo's riches, minerals, its connection to technology, consumption patterns of the West. Just fascinating exchange that we hope to have with our sister Florence Mbuyi. Florence uh, is a supporter of Friends of the Congo, volunteer, the whole bit. If you go to our website and you see the primer that we have on the Congo, she's the author of that. Just a remarkable condensing of what has unfolded in the Congo, since its colonial occupation, let's say. So, Florence, tell us just a little bit about yourself, so folks can know who you are. And Mbui, one of my mentors was Alafule Kala Mbui.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit about myself. Yeah, my name is Florence Mbuyi. I'm sort of a writer at this point, I guess. Yeah, I studied political science. I've always been, very strongly passionate about Congo advocacy. Focused a lot on Congo during my bachelor's and since as well.
Yeah, and when you first reached out to us a number of years ago, I think it was in the pre-COVID years. I guess that's how we divide time now.
Yeah, true.
I was struck by your in-depth interest in the decolonial process, and I think the first forum we did together was with Dr. Nzengola in
Yeah,
Talaja,
that was a
right?
great honor to speak to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For those of you who may not be familiar with Dr. Nzengola, he wrote the book The Congo from Leopold to Kabila, A People's History. He also has a really neat book too on Lumumba. But
Yeah, there's a lot of scholarship on Lumumba as well.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that.
So that's cool. And we're going to have him. We have Congo Week coming up, and he's going to do a session with us. And I think his work is particularly important at this time, with the growing interest and people wanting to know about the Congo and what's happening there. His
Yeah.
book is a really good arc of history, especially from the bottom up. Where
Yes.
he
That
kind
really
of.
always, that's what always strikes me as like really special about his work is that he has
Mhm.
this like perspective on people's power that a lot of scholars and historians on Congo kind of leave out. Because it's not
Right.
just like about the political doings of like some elite classes. It's really about what's happening and what happened with the people. Yeah.
Absolutely, and for this to come from a Congolese scholar as well, uh, so it's just amazing. So we're going to be introducing you to Dr. Nzengola. Actually, we may have him on to do a live with us at some point.
Oh, I have to
To
tune in for
share
that. Yeah.
his work. But right now, we're talking about your work and something that you sent to me or you shared with us, and I read it a few times. A piece that you did on Substack. Who
Yeah.
wants to buy a piece of Congo? How consumerism has colonized life. Share with us. Just the title alone brings you in, especially
Uh,
in this moment where we see consumers are wrestling with questions about their consumption
mhm.
patterns, right? So share with us a bit, just the backdrop to this work and what inspired you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was pondering basically for a long time. I wanted to just really tackle like a bigger piece about Congo and was wondering for a long time what's the best way to do that for me as like a person who's living in the West. I think there's
Mm,
always especially if you want to have a bit of a more like literary kind of piece, like there's always like the draw to wanting to write about suffering in a way that could very easily be exploitative as a person who's like not living in Congo. So
Mm.
I thought the best way, also because there's, you know, kind of like that writer creed, like write what you know, to like focus a little bit on that side of the Congo situation. Like, how does it influence, you know, me and people here, consumers, consumers basically of the suffering of Congo. And yeah, to just really make clear that this is not good for either side, and this is not good for us. It really has colonized life. And I mean, that bit in the title, the colonized life, it's a bit like borrowed from De Boer. I think I'm also mentioning him in the essay. I'm not so sure anymore. Like Marxist philosophers talking about all that as well, like tech and media and consumerism, like those kind of intersections.
You said something interesting that may have slipped by people, where you talk about consumers of the suffering, or even the way you put it in your article, consumers of the malady. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Like, well, of course, there's like the consumerism when it comes to the actual tech and the products, but even in the way that we engage with topics of global inequality. Like sometimes there's even this element of consuming the stories of suffering, especially if they're not coming from people that are living it as well, like themselves. Like it can be like a bit of an exploitative gaze on the thing, even. Something that I really wanted to avoid. Like I don't want to, like, you know, write about Congo in a way that diminishes its potential and power, and, you know, also the beautiful things about it.
Yeah. That is so critical. As you know, we work with Petna and Daliko.
Yes,
Captain Dolo, a favorite of yours, and
completely.
you know, that's really a big issue of his, and it's particularly potent coming from him. You know, when he's right there in the midst of the conflict, right? You know, his project is, or one of them, anyways. He has so many. Is right there in Bolengo. You know, the largest displacement camp in the east of the Congo, around Goma, about 800,000 people, and he has produced fascinating work where he engaged the displaced women in the camps with his folks, and he trained them in photography so that they could take their own pictures and tell their own stories, because people are always coming in and taking pictures of them and filming them. So he put the power in their hands for them to tell the story, which is fascinating. So I get the sense you're in your writing, you're really bringing that to the light, that there could be a pornography of violence, let's say, that people engage in. Even they may be well-meaning, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they set out to do that, but that's something that we ought to. In your writing, you said we have to take, take stock of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you go on in your work, right, to focus on the tech company, and also to focus on this period of conspicuous consumption that we're engaged in. How do you relate that to the Congo? How does that affect the Congo? How do you suggest or recommend to people that they ought to engage with the Congo that guards against that consumption of malady that you're talking about?
Well, yes, because historically, Congo has been such a driver of like Western emerging industries, especially when it came to like new technologies. Whether in the past it would be the automobile, or in the present the electric vehicle, there's these parallels. Like resources from Congo, and they're so plentiful, have always driven our industries, and like in turn also our consumer habits. So, and especially in these days, with cobalt and coltan being mined for our electronic devices, for our laptops, for our smartphones, and us becoming, dependent and, so to speak, addicted to them on such a deeply psychological level, we have to kind of reckon with the fact that our habits and the way that we go about our lives are deeply intertwined with Congo.
And in recognizing that, what are some of the steps that you think people can take to de-link or to mitigate the way our consumption is connected to the suffering in the Congo? Like for example, right now we see people who are saying, they're going to boycott the iPhone, the i16 that's coming out.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to the next level. Is that an effective way or one of many ways? What's your sense based on your writings and what you've studied?
Yeah, completely. I think the boycotts are a great way to go about it. Not just to send a message to those tech companies, but again to really deconstruct our own habits. For instance, the habit of keep on buying new things, although we have working tech that we can use, and just be more mindful in our usage. Like not waiting for the next
thing.
It doesn't have to be always newer, better, and we can just I think this mindfulness that boycotting teaches us is super valuable for us as well. Like whether it's boycotts for Congo or boycotts for Palestine, it's on a personal level something that we gain a lot from.
I see. And in order to gain a lot from it, it seems like you have to take it to another level. I've seen different posts where the boycott is externalized. It's not even so much that folks are looking at, okay, I'm in this capitalist system, a capitalist system that's exploitative, and I'm contributing to it. So I'm going to change my habits, right, as a way of resisting, as a way of starving the beast, so to speak. Where do you see the distinction between the personalizing of it and just going after a company and saying, this company is a bad actor and we need to boycott it?
Yeah, I mean, there's both levels, of course, and if we look at the side of wanting to starve the beast, there has to be a lot of intentionality about it, and a lot of planning, which is of course happening amongst movement organizers. I mean, there's this kind of like, there's like the wild, passionate, disorganized, like just wanting to burn it all to the ground, and just consume anymore. I think there's something very genuine and latently revolutionary about that, and I think that's very good, and we should let the people engage with that. But then there's the side of also, like for instance, what BDS is doing, like actually planning what is the maximum impact that we can get out of our boycotts.
So and you talk about planning, and we look at BDS. We're going back to 2005, right? BDS, we're talking about boycott, divestment, sanctions that the Palestinian organizers community have been working on for two decades. Now Congo comes into the play where Palestinian activists are saying let's boycott Apple because of its actions in Israel and because of its connections in the Congo. There may be an imbalance in terms of the Palestinians having this long history, and then Congolese activists or those who support Congo introducing this element of pressuring Apple. How does, in your sense, is there a need to reconcile that imbalance, or does it matter at all?
The imbalance of how long boycotts have been parts of
the BDS movement is mature. I'm not familiar, even with us, our organizing for 2 decades around the Congo, we haven't organized around a BDS, boycott. Maybe we say sanction Paul Kagame of Rwanda, right? But haven't really focused on sanctioning any particular company. Let's say.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because, I mean, I haven't been in this game as long as you have. I mean, for you, it's been a long time, but I haven't seen this amount of, global interest in what's happening in Congo ever, really. So,
right, no,
I think up until now, it would have been really difficult to organize a boycott campaign like that. But I think now the time is kind of ripe for it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So do you see your again, for people who are watching us, your article is on Substack. Encourage people. I think Quadro may have put the link in the chat. Who wants to buy a piece of Congo? In our film, Crisis in the Congo, Uncovering the Truth, one of our presenters said everybody wants a piece of Congo, right?
Yes.
Which is so true. And in your article, you delve into the pursuit for those riches, and how it is that, for all intents and purposes, Congo is still a colonial state. Can you share with us, from your point of view, how that is, or why Congo still can be viewed as a colonial state and not otherwise?
Yeah, I would say so because, well, ever since colonialism officially ended, we have at that point kind of seen the introduction of neocolonialism, which is just basically, not really like what we see in Congo is not really what we see how like a sovereign state would act or would have the infrastructure to act. We have power situated like entirely at the elites of the political elites of the country, and we see historically for the past, I don't know, like 60 years or so, like just like ever since colonialism ended, we basically see one after another puppet presidents that are very much swayed by external forces, if not paid off. And in this situation, you cannot see it as a sovereign state, like and especially like how it's been going over the past 2 decades or so with Cobalt and Colton, with external actors, whether it's like multinational corporations like Western corporations or Chinese corporations coming in and buying rights to these lands for dirt cheap, and the people don't have sovereignty, so to speak.
You touch on so many things. As you know, one of our organizing efforts is to be in solidarity, right, and support those who are fighting for sovereignty, right, to control the Congo's wealth, to control the land, to control the resources, to control their own affairs. Do you see a possibility of the awareness around the boycott Apple campaign providing a jump off, let's say, or even a segue to move people into that direction around the Congo, to like boycott Apple? That's a resistance and also a personal thing in terms of your consumption. But do you see any possibilities of it being a teachable moment for arcing people to supporting those on the front lines who are trying to ascertain a level of sovereignty over their affairs and their resources?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think that a really like actionable moment like that is really good to draw more people towards a movement, because I think one thing that deters people a lot of time is that they maybe are like sort of aware of an issue, but it just seems a bit like daunting because you don't know what would be my part in this movement, what can I do in this movement, and to have this movement, where people can be drawn in by concrete action that they can do, I think that can be really helpful.
It'd be like a point of entry, so to speak.
Yes, completely. Yeah.
Yes. You know, it's interesting. You talk about the colonial legacy and the puppet leaders and the lack of sovereignty. Reuters reported that President Biden is looking to make a trip to Angola, right? And one of the points on his agenda in visiting Angola is to look into the Lobito corridor, right? Where the United States, the European Union, the G7, I think they've invested over $1 billion or so in rehabilitating the rail line that runs from Kolwezi in the heart of the mining district to the Lobito port in Angola,
Mm-hmm.
ostensibly to extract minerals, right, copper, cobalt, faster, more efficiently than the current system.
Wow.
So that is, they didn't invest in rail lines that connected Kolwezi to Kisangani, or Kolwezi to Goma, or Kolwezi to
Yeah.
Kinshasa,
Yeah, that's
right?
really ridiculous.
Right.
It's
So the
the whole
infrastructure that's being
infrastructure
built,
of
right, is
extraction.
just doubling
Yeah,
down
got
on
to
that
get up.
colonial infrastructure, right?
Yes, completely
Um,
crazy.
so it's that, with Apple, for example, being at the top of the supply chain, how do we make sure that people, or assure people that they see that this colonial infrastructure is being pushed by a government, the U.S. governments, right? The U.S., G7, and European Union, to really keep an eye on that, and only keep an eye on that, explore ways of uh, of resisting the deepening of the colonial system, even though it's not presented as that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what are some things that you think that you writers, young people, how do we get their interest in that type of activity that's being led by governments? Maybe not so much a visible corporation like Apple.
Well, I mean, one thing that we can do is, of course, talk about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's been happening really effectively. People just educating
Mm-hmm.
more about Congo, also online, and yeah, in their writing or whatever niche they occupy. I don't know, just we need to be louder, like so much louder.
Gotcha. Yeah. There's a question that's a few questions that's coming up. I'm going to share with you in the chat.
Mhm.
Uh, P. Tandrilli says, I believe he's speaking of boycotts. He said, I believe it's one of many ways, but boycotts don't work. He says, people who are conscious enough already won't buy a new phone every year. Are there enough conscious people already?
I don't know about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish that was true. I think the world would be a lot better if it was like this.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you may be a little optimistic, or she, I don't know,
Yeah.
optimistic in their view around that.
I think the thing is, I actually feel kind of the opposite. I think people often are
Hmm.
very well intended and actually want things to be better, but consumerism, and that's really what I want to highlight in my essay, is something that we kind of like, it's kind of a wall that a lot of people hit despite their good intentions, because it's just so deeply ingrained in like your psychology, even in your behavior. Like, this is how you know to operate the world, buying stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. And to really deconstruct that in yourself, yeah, I mean, it's really liberating. It's really what we need to do for all these different struggles. But I don't think that people are doing that all that much. Maybe that's a little bit of an internet bubble thing if you think that everybody's already boycotting Apple, because that is not happening. That is not
yeah.
happening outside of a lot of bubbles, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, you tap into that in your article, right? Where you reference the board, for example,
Hmm.
where he talks about the addictive nature of consumerism,
Hmm.
and how immersive consumerism can be, and it even becomes what you say is like an
Yeah, it becomes like
image, right?
yeah, it becomes like a substitute for a lot of I would say like natural human needs, like social life, just to a certain degree self-knowledge and self-actualization kind of gets replaced by consumerism. You become what you buy. You are the stuff that you buy, and you identify with that. So
Right. And you characterize that as a bourgeois psyche, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
the average consumer with a bourgeois psyche
Hmm.
then becomes aspirational, right? That
Hmm.
new iPhone 16 is not just a question of getting a new tool, but it's reflective of a social status, with you being
Yeah,
cool, with you being
you want to
in, with
embody
you.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So there's a whole complex of social factors that lead you into really wanting that next best thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All these consumer goods, you can see them as like a system of signs and meanings, and we kind of navigate ourselves and each other through that, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's what I like about your article, in that you're really delving into the psychology of the consumer, and taking it deeper, beyond just solely a question of a boycott, but almost, in a lot of respects, something. I don't know if you listened to the speech that Gustavo Petro gave at the UN in 2022, where he talked about the consumption patterns of the United States in particular, but the West, in terms of the addictive nature of it with the opioids, and how the consumption patterns of the West. One of the end results was the demonizing a plant that's of value to people in Colombia, right? So it seems like the cocoa plant. It seems like you're tapping into that side a little bit in your article, with that focus on, on the psychology of the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's what I was asking. Is that the...
Oh yeah, that's precisely what I attempted. Yeah, to highlight that side of it. I mean, that's something that I've written about before as well, especially as it pertains to like phones and social media, because I was kind of just feeling and noticing about myself how it really got to me, and like I don't know, it like almost distorts real life a little bit, and that just felt really, just being on my phone so much felt super self-destructed. So before this essay, actually, I've already written about this psychology of consumerism and this like sort of Marxist perspective on consumer life, and I picked this up again in this essay because I just felt like it's so relevant to Congo as well.
Right. No, I really appreciate the way you weave Congo, weave Palestine into making your argument, and bring it into sharp relief for the reader. Again, we're talking about with our sister Florence Mbuyi, article, "Who Wants to Buy a Piece of the Congo?" Let's look at a few of the other questions that are rolling in. It said, this is from Trishangle. It says, "It is very hard as a white person working to sponsor a family from DRC to Canada to walk the line of not sensationalizing their story." That was more of a statement. I guess it's in reference to what you had mentioned before about, Florence, I've shared with people that the situation in Congo is so extreme that if you just tell the story, it's sensational in and of itself, right? And in terms of the, it's kind of hard to really imagine that we have fellow human beings living in the conditions that they're living in the Congo, while we benefit from, in part, right, because we benefit from the resources there. So it's not even like, if you tell the story like it is, it's not even, that's sensational in and of itself, right? Completely.
I've run into this a little bit myself when I was trying to conceptualize this essay. It's like, you can there's so many stories. There's like endless horror stories, and if you want to like zoom in into any particular horrible fate, like it's going to sound gruesome and sensationalizing. So it's really hard. It is really difficult, and I also understand where this person is coming from, especially, I mean, there's a lot of kind of online advocacy happening at the moment. For people trying to get specific people, specific families out of these situations, and making GoFundMes and whatnot. And it feels a little bit like, people are comparing it to like the Hunger Games. It's like you have to entertain the people enough, to not scroll past and hopefully click a link that hopefully saves someone. It feels so gruesome to have to engage in that way, but it's kind of the only way that we can save some people.
That's truly challenging. When we do Congo Week every year, and part of the reason why we launched Congo Week some 17 years ago was to raise awareness about the conflict, right? And the nature of the conflict. And it's the deadliest conflict in the world since World War II. And we immediately felt that we needed to balance it. So we launched Congo in Harlem, where people can get exposure to Congolese culture, what Congo has contributed to, to world cultures, not only in terms of the music and of course the art, but its intellectuals, right? Its practitioners, and to balance things out so people can get a more holistic view of the Congo, and we felt that was that was necessary in light of even though the world media wasn't and still not covering the Congo and what's unfolding there. We felt there was a need to have that balance as well, to showcase and we've seen it in some of the videos coming out of the East, where people show you the Lake Kivu and around Goma and the beauty that's there. So I think a part of it for this person who asked the question is also sharing what a broader view beyond the pornography of violence. I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. One part of just the Congo that I always like to share because of that is just like its history of revolutionary people's power.
Just like we talked about with Dr. Nzengola's book, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I really like when I don't know, that book changed me. Like his perspective is so insightful. So that's something that I always just like. I love to highlight that Congo is. It's not just something that we can think of in terms of misery and pity. It's also something that should inspire us, and
Yeah, because we're talking about you can tell a whole story about Kimpavita, right? We talk about revolutionary history in the Congo, right? You can talk about Simon Kimbangu, right? Who spent more years in jail than Nelson Mandela for resisting, right, colonialism. And of course, everybody knows. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people know Patrice Lumumba.
Yeah.
Right? So that one of the things that struck me about that history of resistance, and Lumumba kind of captured it when he, in the formation of his political party, the Congolese National Movement. He was like, he's speaking to his comrades. Comrades, we're here for one reason only: a free Congo, right? So this is Lumumba in 1958, and here we are in 2024, and that's what we're talking about. That struggle for a free Congo. In your sense, Florence, the consumers that you talk about, right? If you were to give a 1, 2, 3 of the role that they could play in that pursuit for a free Congo, what would you advise? What would you say? Based on all the study you've done, the scholars you've delved into, your understanding of, class analysis, the capitalist system that's got Congo in a trap. What are like a 1, 2, 3 that you'd say to folks who are hyped now around Congo?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I think what consumerism does, consumerism in my eyes, like similarly, less so, but if you think of racism, for instance, that's a system that kind of justifies and rationalizes a lot of violence that is happening to us. And consumerism is kind of a system in that sense as well, that makes the violence make sense to us and makes the violence feel necessary to us. So while it might not be the main driving force of what's happening, because I don't know. There's always going to be actors trying to take advantage, maybe even if we don't explicitly demand it. But I think consumerism is just necessary for us to feel like liberating Congo is impossible. We are feeling personally attached to it. Yeah.
So it makes you feel like liberating Congo is impossible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. In the in your, as you bring your article to a close, I was really interested to see that you talk about consumerism as a structure of neoliberal capitalism, right?
Hmm.
And gives us this feeling that we actually have choice, right?
Yes, that's the
Right.
absurd part about it. You have all the freedom when it comes to what to buy.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the logical extension of that, that means if you're believing that, you also have the option to opt out, not to buy.
Yeah. On the flip side, I guess you also have that. We should make use of that.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, in the end, and I don't want to even just say the part that you have to really read it. In the end, you said consumer culture, right, is a structure that benefits the capitalist class. The billionaires, the CEOs, the thieving governments, right,
Yeah.
including the local elites, right. I guess that's what you put in the thieving governments, and so while exploiting the people of the global majority of their labor and their land,
Hmm.
exploiting like the consumer society for its
Hmm.
lack of general fulfillment
Yeah.
or you say influence. So consumerism is this double-edged sword, as you referenced to, or dagger that you talk about it. It's exploiting the people, right, at the bottom of the supply chain, and it's also exploiting the consumer as well.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that struck me at the article, where you bring the consumer in alignment, let's say, right, with those being exploited, saying, well, as a consumer, you're not really ever free. You're not free, and you say you're not free until capitalism or even imperialism is vanquished, right?
Hmm.
So it's like you're making an appeal or a call to folks like, you know, let's look at our common oppressor, so to speak, right?
Yes.
The global elites, the thieving governments. So is that like the ultimate aim of the article, to really bring people into that awareness that hey, you're together with those children at the bottom of the mines in the cobalt mines in the Congo.
Yes, completely. That was ultimately my goal with this essay. I mean, I think I'm saying it's not, people are saying it's like a double-edged sword, but consumerism, by which they mean to say, it does benefit us despite having all these disadvantages. And I think that's why I'm saying, I mean, not I think, that's why I'm saying it's rather like a dagger inflicting the same wound on all of us.
Mm,
It's really to let go of this perspective that ultimately we are the benefactors, because this is what, like I said, liberal capitalist ideology wants us to believe. It wants us to believe that we are empowered and that we have influence because we get to consume products, but
mm,
ultimately we don't even have the power not to fund genocides.
mm,
Where's the power? Where's the influence? It's just like the illusion of influence, really.
mm-hmm.
And I wanted to put attention to that oppression that we suffer, to make people just like aware of the fact that they're not going to lose any privileges by advocating for a free Congo. Like we all need that liberation to be free ourselves.
Powerful, powerful. And I love that, the way you basically end with an appeal, appeal to, uh, not just the oppressed masses, those who believe that they have certain privileges in the West. So I think it beckons maybe another one. So we'll be looking out for your next article around it as well. Uh, so Florence, we're gonna any last thing that you wanted to share with us in terms of what you have upcoming, anything that we may have missed in our discussion that you felt that was like really important to convey to folks who are watching us?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I urge people to go check it out themselves. I mean, I'm just talking a lot in that essay, so it would be hard to go over all the points. But no, I'm really happy with this conversation.
Okay, good. So again, Florence's article is on Substack. Who Wants to Buy a Piece of Congo by Florence Mbuyi. Thank you so much, not just for coming on and being with us today, but just just for the support you've provided our organization, Friends of the Congo, and the intellectual resources that you've brought to the table. It's invaluable. So we really appreciate it, and we're going to be coming back to you with some of your future writings, right? Yeah. And whether I think you were trying to make a decision. I saw some posts you made whether you're going to continue with your studies or go in another
it's like
direction. So we'll be watching you, and either way, whatever you do, you're going to be like. I'm sure you're going to. The way you write, you're just going to be you're going to be writing.
Well, thank you.
Whatever you do, irrespective of the direction you go, you're gonna be writing. So, we're looking out for the next generation of Nzangolas and Talajas, and so we hope you continue in that tradition.
Yes, and I would be more than happy to write more things for Friends of the Congo as well, if ever.
Oh, well, yeah. Kwajo's listening, so he's going to be hitting you up. Yeah, he's organizing an entire curriculum. So just look out for that. That hit up from Kwajo. Thank you, Brother Kwajo. Thank you all for tuning in, and Florence, thank you for taking us, a little deeper into the actions that we're seeing out there. So really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Be well.